Well, we told you when we came on the air this morning that China is hitting back with 125% tariffs on all U.S. goods. We have U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins joining us now by phone to find out what this means for farmers. Welcome to Market Day Report, Secretary Rollins. A lot to unpack here as we get started with these new developments. You sat across from the president in his cabinet meeting yesterday advocating for farmers. Your message this morning to our farmers who are worried about escalating tensions.
Well, first of all, it's so great to be back on with my RFD family and really appreciate all that you all do. Yeah, it is a time of uncertainty. There is no doubt about it, but President Trump has been resolute. He's also been hyper-focused on our farmers and ensuring that every step he makes, he's got our community in his mind. And at the end of the day, the unfairness, the tariff regime that we've been living under is not an America first, farmers first regime. It is a regime of China, of Brazil, of the EU. And so this idea and vision of his that really dates back to Alexander Hamilton in 1791, which is being a fervent supporter of our agriculture commodities, that's what he's working to return to. And, you see the 75 countries that have come to the table. He said yesterday in our cabinet meeting that he believes that we'll be talking to China very soon as well, and that we're going to move into an age of prosperity very, very soon for this community, for our farmers.
Well, Secretary, as a liaison for farmers, have you had conversations with the president's economic team as the plan for tariffs was being mapped out? I mean, I think a lot of folks right now are wondering the president's endgame with tariffs, and as you said, just to level the playing field.
Well, it is a long game. And listen, his approach is tariffs, but it's also tax cuts, and it's also deregulation. And so the package, and you see the markets react to that. There's so many different indicators, but yesterday, for the first time since COVID, inflation decreased. I mean, we've only been in office. I've been there a little over 50 days. I think the president's probably 2 months, maybe 2.5 at this point. Inflation has come down. Jobs have started rebounding. Manufacturing and the job numbers exceeded expectations, I think, by 2x yesterday or the day before. And that's actually probably quicker than even some of our economists thought. But the market is reacting. You see almost $5 to $7 trillion, depending on how you calculate it, $1 trillion of new jobs coming into the private sector. And this is what we had in large part in Trump 1, but he's doubling down on it. But again, always realizing that especially our row croppers who are the most hard hit, pork and a few other industries obviously as well, but really, really being hyper-focused on those as we move forward. I have been in the rooms. I'm not negotiating. I'm not part of the U.S. trade team or in the commerce team or the treasury team, but all of those teams, including Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick, our trade rep, Jamison Greer, I am in constant communication with them and the president. And that has been, I think, hopefully has helped make sure that our farmers have a seat at this table.
Well, you had mentioned, of course, our row crop farmers, and that's, of course, what we're worried about. Not a quick resolution. I mean, I think as this continues to unfold day by day with these tariffs, can farmers expect some aid like the Trump administration did in the first term? And as I said, I know it's constantly unfolding, spring planting just underway. So what will you be watching for to determine if and when that relief to our producers will come?
Well, we will be watching it very closely. One of the very first things, and I got the call from the president on November 23rd of 2024 about this job, and that he wanted me to take this job on behalf of our farmers and ranchers. I think the very next call I made, even before maybe some of my family, was understanding that we've got to make sure that food security is national security, that we have to be able to support our farmers and our ranchers. And I was in the West Wing the last time when Secretary Perdue put the program together to ensure that we're mitigating, perhaps devastating economic consequences for some of our row croppers. So we are on it. Obviously, we won't know the full story for some time, but when it is time to turn that on, we are going to be prepared. We're going to do everything that we can, but hopefully, the bottom line here is hopefully it's not needed, right? That hopefully this resolves itself very quickly and that it resolves itself in a way that is so beneficial to our own American farmers. And I don't know if you saw this, Suzanne, but last night the president tweeted about the Mexican water issue.
Yes.
And our citrus farmers in South Texas have been dying because Mexico's been stealing our water. Well, no president has ever been willing to lean into that before. But last night in a post, on Truth Social, the president said no more. Not only are we going to be looking at additional tariffs, but sanctions. If Mexico doesn't meet their water obligation and get our water back over to our farmers in South Texas. I mean, that is stunning. I'm not surprised because I know President Trump so well and I know his heart so well for our farmers, but that was stunning, I think, for most people, even those who've been watching this closely, how strongly he came out. And that just shows you his resoluteness in supporting, our community.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, Secretary. As you had mentioned a number of times, the last sugar mill in Texas just closed back in February due to lack of water. What are conversations right now are taking place with Mexico? Obviously, laying out these tariffs, possibly sanctions on Mexico. What do you think the next steps are here?
Well, there will be, without giving, too much information that's still confidential. We immediately began moving out and setting up discussions. Of course, this is not necessarily USDA, although I'll be partnering with Secretary Rubio over at State and also talking to some other counterparts today. But hopefully we'll have resolution very, very, very quickly, and we'll get some water moving perhaps, in the next few days.
Absolutely. Well, good news to hear from that, of course. Another topic that you continue to talk about and a topic that continues to plague the industry, High-Path Avian Flu. The president has praised you yesterday for helping to bring down wholesale egg prices. Your plan includes imports of eggs. Will those eggs be subjected to tariffs after the 90-day pause is lifted?
Well, that is to be determined. Now, hopefully, with the repopulation that is happening based on one part of the 5-part plan was getting the regulations out of the way and getting some more indemnification there so we could repopulate more quickly, that the egg imports were just part of a short-term plan. Of course, every day we're watching the markets and seeing what's reacting. We're watching the eggs coming in on the short-term imports. But hopefully, by the end of the 90 days, we will perhaps no longer need those imports, depending on where the avian flu goes, depending on the results on some of our egg layers, our larger farms, and some of the hardest hit states like Iowa and Ohio and others. But we're watching it, but we're hopeful that will not affect the recovery on the egg prices.
Secretary, the process right now, should there be another outbreak, USDA still culling entire flocks, and if so, are you helping restore those flocks in a timely manner?
We are. Well, and we continue to watch it closely. We're moving into a season with migration and the migratory birds that we're going to have to be really diligent about it. We have conducted hundreds and hundreds of biosecurity audits with these barns, and we're, of course, partnering with them up to 75% of the cost to lock the barns down to, work. That has actually proven to be the most effective way to keep the avian flu out of some of these barns. So we're making a lot of progress, but who knows? This has been an ongoing problem for years now. It's been devastating for our poultry farmers, and we are, again, moving forward on different ideas and taking partnerships with therapeutics, potential vaccines, maybe innovative culling operations and processes, but it's an all-of-the-above approach. I don't know that we'll be able to fix it immediately, but I think that we're going to see some really positive movement versus the last administration that, they were culling, but they weren't really leaning into how you solve the long-term problem. And that's what we're trying to do right now.
Secretary, of course, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing on behalf of our farmers and producers. And as I mentioned before we went to camera, happy belated birthday from all of us here at RFD-TV. We do appreciate you very much. Secretary Brooke Rollins.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great to be on with you. We'll look forward to being on again very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Secretary.